Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Exceptional Relationships with Jason and Ronique. And we're excited to have you this week to talk about partnerships.
Hi.
And Ronique, who is our Exceptional
Yes.
Relationships coach, we would love to hear more about what makes an ideal partnership, and is there an ideal partner that we should be looking for?
That's true. Well, since got a we went into a little bit in the last episode on respect. That is one thing that we should be looking for in an ideal partner, whether it be business, whether it be romantic, whether it be friendship, whatever the case may be. That is one thing we should look for. Yeah, good. Had to shake my glasses a bit. Yes. So one thing that we should be looking at is respect and mutual respect specifically, because it can't be a situation where you are showing the other person respect and the person is not reciprocating that energy. So that's what you have to look at, whether this person respects you, right? And also if the other person is someone who you can respect, right? And another thing is compromise. If you see certain things in a specific person, if you're willing to compromise for the other person and vice versa as well. But there is a limit, because at the end of the day, you don't want to compromise yourself into a corner where you are just accepting mediocrity, right? There has to be standards. So for example, if you are the sort of person who is an active person, you love to work out, you love to be doing a lot of active things throughout your day, you have to find somebody who either is that way as well, or who is the compromise for that, with everything sort of because there's always something to be learned from somebody when you're putting two people together, whether it be business or romantic wise. So I said that's one thing. And another thing, most importantly, you look at value systems and you look at what the person believes in, because a lot of people they don't they don't place a lot of emphasis on value systems and what sort of morals the other person has, whether they believe in family, whether they're trustworthy, whether they're honest, whether they're, I don't know, I guess from a religious standpoint, believes in the sort of things that you believe in from a spiritual perspective. And that is something that's pretty much decides what your value systems are, what your belief systems are. If those value systems and those belief systems are aligned,
So,
not a lot of people place a lot of emphasis on that, and when we really should.
yeah. So if I hear you correctly, the importance in identifying ideal partners and creating ideal partnerships is, starting with a mutual respect for each other. And
Yes.
in addition to that mutual respect, really finding alignment in terms of the things that are important to you, the values that you have, making sure that, the person is going to be interested and committed to the same things that you are. So the alignment that we're talking about, in terms of values, the 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 question is, how do you find those
Mhm.
values in somebody?
Well, in order for you to find that, you have to be honest with yourself about the person you are. You have to do a lot of reflection, and you have to do a lot of, I'd like to say, self-evaluation, where you can examine yourself and you can say, okay, this is the person I am. is how I was raised. This is what I was taught from a very young age in terms of what I should be believing in, and also what sort of lessons that I have learned throughout my development from childhood into adulthood. What sort of things have changed? What sort of value systems and what sort of things I believe in now that I am out of my parents' house, and we can we will be able to get an idea of the sort of person we are on the inside and what we are able to bring to another person's life. So that is one thing. So in at the core of everything, in order for you to find someone ideal for you specifically, you have to be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day you cannot go to somebody and say to them, okay, I want this from you, I want that from you, and at the end of the day you are not honest with yourself about who you are. Because if you are not doing that, you're never going to find you're never going to find what you want, because nothing is ever going to align.
If I understand you correctly, a lot of what you're saying is that the more that we look inside ourselves and identify
Mm-hmm.
important values of who we are and what we want for ourselves, is the more that we can
Mm-hmm.
share that with others and find out if
Yep.
other people have the same interests and values and are willing to add to what we already have as values. And
Yep.
it leads to the question of, why does this seem so difficult? It seems like this is a relatively
Or
figure out, but it's not. A lot of
Mhm.
people go
Yeah.
into relationships and they find it very difficult to match up on those simple values and ideals to really be able to complement each other.
Yep. And the only way you'll be able to do that is if you're honest with yourself. So that is one thing. If you are not honest with yourself about who you are on the inside as well as out, nothing is ever gonna align.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of soul searching. It takes a lot of inner work. It takes a lot of facing your own personal, own insecurities, and facing your own imperfections, and saying that, okay, this is the person I am. Trust, you have to have a level of trust in yourself, and a level, okay, this is the person I am, I hope that you'll accept me as is. And that is where if the other person is honest with themselves, that is where the mutual respect. Because somebody, if you are coming to somebody and you can say, okay, this is the person you are, these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses, and you are completely honest and transparent about that, the other person, depending on how they are socialized and what sort of inner work that they have done, they will be able to respect that and be able to reciprocate that energy that you're bringing to them. And that's where the mutual respect comes in. And then you'll find, once you're getting to know each other, you'll find different things that align. And that is where you find the ideal situation. So that is, and there you go, the ideal partner. Everything starts with us.
Now, let me ask you from a different standpoint. If you're looking at this in business, obviously people create
Mhm.
agreements and they try to outline their partnership based on, the agreements of, worst case scenario, this is how we're going to handle things.
Yeah.
Why do we do that in business, but we don't do that in terms of, our romantic interests or our friendships or anything else? Why is it that business and most businesses don't even do this until they get to a certain level, which is to really look at it from how do you resolve problems and how do you handle unraveling if things don't work out between you two?
Well, it's all. all about communication. And not a lot of businesses do this because, unfortunately, they're only focused on the bottom line. And yes, a lot of businesses might say that they're all about their employees and they're all about the development of their employees, but it's really, really not so. It's really not. Because trust me, not a lot of companies will take someone off of the street and say, okay, I believe in you, and I will train you, and I will give you the tools that you need to be a better person, unless it is unless they already have experience in the field, or or is someone who they know. They're not going to pick up somebody random because it is a financial risk for them. So everything for them is down to bottom line. But at the end of the day, what makes a company? People. You have to invest in people. And if you see somebody that you might not know them, but you can see that they are willing to try, and they're willing to learn, and they're willing to work and learn the ropes, invest in them, because you never can tell. You find the rarest of diamonds in the rarest of places, right? And everyone must always keep that in mind, whether it be business, whether it be relation, in terms of our romantic connections. You can find the rarest of diamonds in the rarest of places. So always go into situations and always go into opportunities with an open mind and an open heart, because some great things come when people just stop concentrating on the bottom line and just go along with the journey, and just be good people and be kind and be loving and treat people the way you would want to be treated if the shoe was on the other foot.
So if I hear you correctly, and this is, from the standpoint of getting into any type of relationship, is the more that you're willing to give, the more
Yes.
that you're willing to invest simply for the benefit of the other person becoming a better
Yes.
person, is the more
Hmm.
likely you're able to build an ideal partnership and an ideal relationship, because now
Yes.
you are improving the person, which is exactly what we talked about before, is that you want to be able to compliment someone. You want to be able to add value to who they are. So,
Mhm.
so you have to figure out whether or not your values are aligned, because the challenge, as I'm hearing you say it, and I'll ask it as a question, what happens if someone receives everything you're giving, but then doesn't reciprocate? They're not really, they may be performing, quote unquote, but they're not really giving it their 150, percent the way you are in terms of giving to them. So they are improving, but they're not
Yeah.
really giving you everything that they could really improve, and they're not really helping you to improve, because their
Yeah.
performance, although it's an improvement, it isn't the level of improvement that is really fair to both of you.
Yeah. And that is where the two individuals, or the companies, or the employer and the employee, or the two individuals in that particular relationship, whatever it is, will have to sit down and have a conversation, and have an honest and a heartfelt conversation about, okay, I see that this is going on. I see that you're doing this, but I feel as if there is something more can be done. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about whatever to help you get to that point?
Awesome. And this is probably going to lead to another episode, in which we discuss that specifically in terms of compensation. But in terms
Yeah.
of uh, this particular episode, what I hear you saying is that communication,
Mm-hmm.
as a part of both respect and your values, is
Yep.
also being able to sit down with the other person without fear or anxiety,
Yep.
that you're able
Mm-hmm.
to, approach each other when you identify that things aren't going the way you'd like them. And you might see that the other person is doing things, but to the degree that you want them done, or to the degree that you think that they're capable of, and the
Yeah.
success you want for them. And so a
Yeah.
lot of it is how you approach it from, your desire to see them be more
Yeah.
successful than they are.
Yeah. And you know what? You see, in those sort of conversations, you can be completely honest, and you can say, this is what I see, this is what I see for you, this is what where I see you going, this is what I see you doing. And I would love for you to I would love to see how we can take steps together so you can get to that point. Because usually when people take the time to sit down and talk to you that sort of a way, it's because they care. And it's because they see something in you, and they see that you can be more, you can do more. They just want to just give you that little push and give you that little piece of encouragement, just to ensure that you are doing better and being better. So nobody should take it as a put down, and nobody should take it as a negative thing, because people do that because they care. Nobody is going to do that if they don't care. It doesn't let you do what you want to do, right? So that is one thing that we should always keep in mind when we're having these sort of conversations, and just be very transparent and show that you care. Because you know what, when you go into these situations, it's all about giving. And you you give what you get, and it might not be from that specific person, but later on down the line, something of twisted way, because that's how the universe works. When you put in that sort of positive energy, it always comes back to you, whether it be from that particular person or from somebody else, because we're putting positive energy. We have to always concentrate on that, constantly putting positive energy into the world, because that's the energy that we are always going to get back. If you put it negative, you're going to get negative.
So if I understand you correctly, going back to ideal partners and creating ideal relationships, it really is about your positive energy. So in
Yep.
terms of being honest with yourself first, it's identifying
Yep.
the value inside of yourself that present the most positive energy that you can then project outward,
Mhm.
and then trying to identify people that also have positive energy that complement
Yes.
your positive energy. And when you run into problems, because life is full of problems, and the challenge in relationship
True.
dealing, with problems together, you look at those
Mhm.
challenges and those problems as opportunities to solve,
For growth.
for
and
growth.
and yes, and for growth, because life is all about growth as well.
So
It's always an opportunity to learn. There's always an opportunity to grow as an individual. So when you go into these situations, one must keep in mind that it's not a negative thing, but it's a way for you to be better. It's a way for you to be stronger. It's a way for you to be smarter.
So I have to ask the question again, which is, why is it so difficult for people to understand such simple concepts? And especially when it comes to the opportunity not only to work together, but to really grow together. So many people find it very, very hard, and they get caught up in their emotions and miscommunication.
Because we are living in a world that doesn't concentrate on that. And we're living in a world that is constantly dictating to us, take, 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 and it's never about giving, right? right? And that is where we have a lot of the problems in relationships that we see today. A lot of and that's on the whole topic of the man and woman argument, you see a lot of women that go into relationships and they're taking from a man instead of giving. And it should be not saying that a man should not contribute to his woman if he cares about her and if the need arises, because a man should always do that because in general there is, no matter how people love to ignore it and try to deny it, there is a gender role, and a man plays a specific role in a relationship and a woman plays a specific role in a relationship. It has always been that way. I will always be that way, right? But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, it has to be a 50-50 effort in order for things to work. If somebody is going into a situation and it's all about take, it's never gonna work. Why? Because you're not putting anything into it, and that is how anything grows. That's how plants grow. You have to give the water. You have to give the plant water. You have to give the plant sunlight. You have to give the plant love in order for it to grow. It's not gonna just grow on its own, right? And that is how people must look at relationships as well. It's not about take. And the thing about it is, that is the world that we live in. It's all about take, and it's a very rare occasion, at least from what I have seen from my observations, it is a rare occasion that I will see anybody talk about giving, unless it's from a monetary perspective. And yes, you talk about giving, but it's not never about giving 50-50. It's never about the both sides giving. It's all about one person giving and another person taking. It's never about the two individuals giving to each other.
Why is it so hard for people to give?
Honestly, I don't know. That is one thing I have asked myself. That's so many times. But you know what? I think I think it's a more of a situation where giving it puts it puts persons in a position where they're vulnerable,
Okay.
and it is an internal fear to be vulnerable when you really shouldn't be afraid of it.
Could
You really shouldn't
vulnerability
be.
actually be a strength?
Yes, it is. Vulnerability is always a strength, because at the end of the day, you know what? If you are honest with it, back to the honest with yourself again. If you are honest with yourself about what your insecurities are and what your vulnerabilities are, you're always gonna be giving. Always, because you're putting things into the world and showing people this is who you are, right? And yes, there will be people who will not accept that. That's okay. There will be people who will accept that, because there are people in the world who are just like you, who are just as vulnerable. Not saying you're going to be a doormat, but you're gonna show yourself. You're gonna show your strengths. You're gonna show your weaknesses. You're gonna show, okay, this is me.
Is
And
is this again in exceptional results now we talk about this in terms of the authentic leader. Is this
yeah,
sort of the core of authenticity is allowing yourself to be
yes,
vulnerable?
yes, yes, yes.
And
You
and
can't you cannot be able to teach anybody anything if you are not willing to be vulnerable.
and from the standpoint of authenticity,
And that is where the greatest lessons are learned.
yeah. And from the standpoint of authenticity, is this what goes into finding your ideal partners and your ideal relationships, is understanding that the more you're in touch with yourself and the more you're willing to be vulnerable is the more authentic you are to be able to
Yeah.
help other people and know who you
Yeah,
are. And
it's
so,
really important.
yeah. So what does someone really gain from being authentic?
Authenticity in return.
Awesome.
If you want authenticity, if you want somebody to be genuine, you have to put that energy out there, because how are you going to how are you even going to find the ideal partner, the ideal employee, the ideal anybody, the ideal business partner, the ideal romantic partner, the ideal any sort of somebody who's going to be working with you, if you cannot put authenticity out there. If you can be honest, you are going to put people in a position where they can feel comfortable being honest with you and being transparent with you and being authentic with you. See how
So if we're wrapping this up in summary, what are the most important things that you think that our listeners should walk away with in terms of looking for, ideal partnerships and, really working on themselves to be better partners with their friends, family, colleagues, business endeavors?
be authentic. Be authentic. In be live your truth live your truth with all your flaws and imperfections, because that is what makes you unique, and that is what makes you the person you are. And just go into any situation with the mindset that, okay, this is the person I am, and regardless of however it turns out, I am trusting that the universe will reciprocate that energy towards me tenfold. Always, always. I implore the listeners, just be authentic. Be authentic, and just, if there's something that you feel as if you need to fix within yourself, then take the steps to fix it. But just be honest about it. Just be honest, be truthful, be yourself. And trust that the other person will reciprocate that energy as well. And if they don't, they just don't. You just move on.
Yeah.
Right? But always, core of everything, be honest with what is inside you and release that energy. Because whether it be from the person you are intended it to, the person you are directed towards, or from somebody else, you're always going to get back that energy. Always.
Wonderful.
That's how the universe works. I follow it.
Awesome. All right.
That's
This has been another episode.
That's what says.
This has been another episode of Exceptional Relationships with Jason and Ronique. We are delighted to have you tune in, and we look forward to having you again with us next week. Thank you, and have a wonderful week ahead. And happy New Year.
And happy New Year when it comes. Love you all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. See you in 2021. And